What or who do you associate the words tall man with? Basketball player? Volleyball player? Actually, tallest people far from athletes. Moreover, such people have a lot of pathologies and die early enough. So, in this video you will learn about who are the biggest people in the history of mankind, how and how many of these unique creatures live. Be sure to watch the video to the end. You will be surprised at the growth of man in the first place. This is our top 10 highest people. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Thank you. We wish you a pleasant watching, and we are starting. Brahim Takiolah, 246 centimeters. Moroccan, who is recorded in the Guinness World Record as the owner of the largest feet, 38.1 centimeters, left foot, 37.4 centimeters, right foot. Brahim was born in Galmim, Morocco, in 1982. At the age of 18, acromegaly was discovered in him. And for this year he grew by a meter. After he graduated, he went to Paris with a French doctor for treatment. It turned out to be successful. Today, he is the second tallest living person. It is known that now he spends most of the year in his native country, also visits France and works for an attraction park Saint Paul, not far from Paris, where people can make photo with him. Donald Keller, 249 centimeters. Donald is another famous giant. He was born in 1925, in Montana. His father was 188 centimeters tall and his mother was 178. An interesting fact is that he had a twin sister, whose height was only 175 centimeters. Both of them entered the Guinness Book of Records as twins with the biggest difference in height. Excessive Don's growth started after 10 years. For a while he performed, showing the show. After, he worked as a seller, he was selling hydraulic elevators. Donald was even invited to become a player on the basketball team, but he refused then. Died in 55 of a heart attack. Sultan Kösen, 251 centimeters. The tallest man on the earth who is living now. Turkish by nationality, was born in Martin, a city in southeastern Turkey. Sultan's foot length is 36 centimeters, it's 2 centimeters less than the Moroccan from Paris, who opened our today's top. The reason for such a high growth in him is acromegaly. He uses crutches in order to walk now. Due to his high stature, Sultan was unable to graduate from high school. He was a basketball player, but due to pain in his legs he stopped playing. He has been undergoing treatment in Virginia since 2010. In 2012 it became known that it went well and continued growth was stopped. Sultan still lives in Turkey and is engaged in farming. Included in the Guinness World Records. Wayno Myllyrinne, 251. 4 centimeters. Wayno was born in 1909 in Helsinki. Unlike other giants in 20 years, his growth was only 220 centimeters. That is why this Finnish giant is the only one in our top who has served in the army. So, he awarded the title of highest soldier in history. By the age of 30, his height was already 251.4 centimeters. In the 1930s he traveled to Europe as a wrestler and circus. Next, he was a participant in the War of Independence of Finland. Wayno lived a fairly quiet life for a big man and died at the age of 54 in Helsinki. Eduard Bopre, 252 centimeters. Eduard is a Canadian giant, who was born in 1881 in the southern Saskatchewan town of Wadlow. His parents are Gaspar Bopre and Florestine Pache had 20 children and Eduard was the first. Eduard stopped going to school at age 12. He spoke good French, English. Already at 12 he was more than 2 meters. Since childhood, Eduard dreamed of becoming a rider. He was a good horseman. But he had to give up his dream at 17. His height reached 215 centimeters then. The only way to earn money, as for the other giants in our video, was a circus show. Also he was a wrestler and strongman by lifting horses onto his shoulders and bending iron. Eduard wrestled Louis Cyr, a famous French strongman, on March 25. The match ended with the victory of the strongest Frenchman. At the time of death he was 23. Leonid Stadnyk, 253 centimeters. We are continuing. And in the meantime, subscribe to the channel and like this video. Another Russian-speaking giant in this video. This big man and veterinarian by profession was born in Ukraine in 1970. There he lived his whole life. Worked as a veterinarian while health was okay. His fast growth started at 12 years old after brain surgery due to a pituitary tumor. 20 years after the operation, it turned out that the disease somehow disappeared in an unknown way and he was healthy. Once Leonid refused to be measured and entered in the Guinness Book of Records, putting an end to his recognition in the GWR. Leonid died at the age of 44, cause of death is cerebral hemorrhage. John Carroll, 263. 4 centimeters. John, next of 10 people in our list in history to have reached a height of 240 centimeters. He was born in New York in 1932. Also known as Buffalo Giant in medical literature. Extraordinary growth of man started at the age of 16 until his death. There is a fact that he grew by almost 18 centimeters in 1 year. The cause of his death in 36 to 37 was acromegalic gigantism. John Rogan, 268 centimeters. The tallest African American, who was born in USA on February 1868. His parents were slaves. John could not move on his own, so he made a living selling his photographs. He began to grow very rapidly at the age of 13. This led to ankylosis, due to which he could not stand and walk without crutches. Having achieved almost his maximum growth, he constantly gave interviews to newspapers. Rogan earned his living by selling his portraits and postcards with his image at the railway stations and refused any shows he was invited to work on. Despite his high growth, he suffered from extremely low weight. Having such a height, he weighed about 80 kilograms. Long of his hands were 28 centimeters, his feet 33 centimeters. He continued to grow until his death. Joint disease caused his death at 37. Robert Wadlow, 272 centimeters. Robert was born in 1918 in Alton, Illinois. He is the highest man who was registered in Guinness Book of Records. The hyperplasia of his pituitary gland made it higher and higher every day. His parents were of medium height. Father, 180 centimeters. Height and weight up to 4 years old he was quite normal for his age. After 4, he began to grow rapidly. The giant completely learned at school, and then went to university, where he studied law. Gradually, his condition worsened, the disease progressed. He began to need crutches. Due to its high growth, it has become popular. Robert toured and performed at major social events. But the disease made itself felt. During his speech on Independence Day, a crutch rubbed his foot. At the 22, he died in a hospital due to infection. Even by the time of his death, there was no signals that his growth had ended. 40,000 came to his funeral. The tombstone was set higher than the rest to show that the tallest man was buried here. Today, he known as the Alton Giant and the Giant of Illinois. Feodor Machnow, 282 centimeters. And finally, we reach the first place in our top. The most gigantic man ever to live. Who is he? First place in our top is Feodor Machnow, who is the tallest person in history. Known now for Russian giant, Feodor was born at the village of Kashuki near Vitebsk in 1876, now its city in Belarus, then part of the Russian Empire. Already in childhood, His growth was more than 2 meters. In the village where he grew up, his fellow villagers often asked him for help. There is even information that he carried cows and other large animals. Once such a tall man was noticed by the director of a German circus, who offered him a contract. And in his 20s he toured Europe and USA with showing his great height. By the way, in the USA he met with President Roosevelt as well as an actor and another giant, George Auger. In addition to circus shows, he was engaged in wrestling. After 9 years of touring, he returned home and bought the property of his former landowner and renamed his home village of Kashuki to Velik Novo. He had 4 children, but, fortunately, his children did not suffer from the illness of their father. They were below 2 meters. Russian giant died at the age of 34. The cause of this is acromegaly again. However, there are versions that he was poisoned by his ill-wishers or envious persons. He was a rather famous wrestler, although it has not been proven. Now, in Vitebsk a monument was erected to him. This is where our video ends. Write which of the giants impressed you the most. We make great efforts to release each of our videos. If our video liked you, please click like button. Subscribe to the channel and leave your comment. See you again in the new video review.